as everyone has probably read, the statement by Carlos and John. So I think those things speak for themselves. From my end, I just want to reinforce that I stand 100% behind Carlos, that it's important for him to be with his family right now. We've talked about it within the team, the rest of the coaching staff. All his teammates feel exactly the same way. And we always have a mentality that we do what's best for players, we do what's best for families, and that doesn't change how we approach stepping on the field and trying to be at our best every time we get the chance. So that's the way we're all thinking about it. We're scheduled to travel later today to Orlando, and our mindset is to get there, get tested, do the quarantine, get tested again, and then find a routine that allows us to just get settled and ready so that when we play Houston next week, we're ready to go.
First of all, Bob, thank you for this time. What exactly can be the impact from the absence of Carlos Vela? And what do you talk about his decision? And also, are you concerned about all these COVID cases raising in the bubble in Orlando? Thank you, and the best of luck.
Thank you. Certainly, Carlos is an important player, but the way we train and the way we prepare is to be a good team when Carlos isn't on the field. And we've had some moments where I think that's been the case. We train in different ways every day, mix up lineups, make sure that guys get used to playing with different people. So the mindset is what I said earlier, that we stand behind Carlos. It's important for him to be with his family. And now the challenge of getting back on the field after a long layoff. We're satisfied with the training we've had. I think that part has been important, just to establish a foundation again after being off for so long. And then we must get there and just get settled and be ready to go. In terms of COVID cases, of course we're concerned. We're concerned with what we see going on around the country in different states. And all of us are paying strict attention to news that comes out of Orlando and out of the bubble. We've had confidence here, even though obviously there's a big spike in cases in Los Angeles, because we've continued to test negatively, and guys have had the confidence that when they come in every day, our training facility is a safe place where we can not have the exact same routine that we've always had, but find an adjusted one that works and enjoy training and enjoy being together. And so we're going to try to get to Orlando. The reminder to all the players has been that it's about helping each other. It's about, as a group, staying together. It's not a time for socializing with all the other teams. There are big challenges to this type of situation in a bubble. And I think the best way to try to help each other is to be strong as a group.
I know that your standard is to, win all the games you can, of course. And I imagine you're trying to go for this tournament, but given the difficult conditions that you've already mentioned, is the objective still to win the tournament, or is it more a matter of kind of getting through the next month and sort of seeing where you are?
No, of course, the objective is always to win. I think it's a day at a time. So I already referred to the idea that after all the weeks here of settling into a routine, now today we've got to get there. We've got to check in. We've got to get tested. We've got to get through those first 12 to 24 hours and then start to find our way. When the games come, again, rather than thinking about the whole tournament, the first opportunity against Houston is the first time in a long time to get back on the field as a group. So we'll look forward to that and try to be at our best. And then we'll make decisions from game to game in terms of how guys look in training, how they come out of things physically, and how to be at our best for games against the Galaxy in Portland.
Wondering if you could walk us through the process for determining, day-to-day logistics in Orlando, and what considerations were taken into account into, formulate a training plan and everything that goes into that process. And also, if curious if your international experience was helpful in that process.
The only experience that I thought back on is that when we were in South Africa for the World Cup, that we tried to find a way that days would flow. And we settled into a situation in South Africa where we trained in the afternoon, and we found a way where guys could sleep in a little bit. Breakfast had a window where they didn't have to be in at the same time. There was a little bit of a period for gym work, a late lunch, and then training. And then when they got back after training, a late dinner. And it just seemed to help days flow a little bit better. So we're going to be on a schedule like that. It also fits that the games that we play in Orlando are night games. So we'll stay on a schedule that, in a way, is almost like West Coast schedule, and just use that as the best way to find a routine and keep everybody going. I mentioned earlier that the group has done a fantastic job of being disciplined and responsible over the last month. And we speak about it every day. Talking about responsibility, talking about the fact that if we can keep testing negatively, then the confidence when guys come in every day, the ability to just enjoy being here, interacting with their teammates, how important all those things are. So we have to find the same way to handle Orlando. It doesn't, I mean, with everything I've read, certainly the biggest thing to avoid are long periods of time indoors with people. So we'll stay on our floor. There'll be a team room. Encouraging guys, even on our floor, to not let anybody else in your room. And then if you're looking to sit and have a little talk with somebody, go outside and find a spot and distance and wear a mask. I think it's just important not to have long periods of time with everybody together inside, and try to be as smart as we can and reduce risk.
Hey, what was your feeling when this was first announced? Were you for it? Were you against it? And has your opinion changed at all as it's approached and the various unpredictable episodes have come out?
For or against?
Just doing this tournament in general and bringing everyone to one place. And
there's a lot in that, Steve. For, against, tournament, all these kind of things. The way it was laid out, there wasn't much to choose from. I'm not sure I agreed with that. But we have always found a way as a group to discuss things internally. One of the things that I have done wherever I've coached is still challenge guys to be able to think for themselves and be aware of what's going on. It's not something that you ever want to just force on anybody. And so we've discussed it as a team. I've said a few times we found ways around here to train where the confidence that everybody was responsible off the field is there. And now we've got to do the same when we get to Orlando. Don't mistake me. Every one of us, when we show up every day, when we can get back on the field and train, that hour and a half is still something that we absolutely enjoy every day. We're very lucky for that. And we're excited to play games. Yes, there are concerns, and there are, depending upon where you get information, there are different things, different reports coming from inside the bubble. So I know players talk to other guys that are already there, and we just discuss internally and look for ways that we can help each other.
Considering how influential Carlos Vela was to all aspects of your offense, does this raise the expectation or puts any kind of pressure in your younger, high-profile players like Rossi and Brian Rodriguez in this tournament?
We're lucky that we've got a lot of talented attackers. And I think everybody saw last year that in the league, Carlos was cut above everyone. And so when you take him away, that does challenge others to step up. But we've seen that happen before. Even on days when Carlos has been on the field, he'd be the first one to tell you that some days he's not at his best. And then you see the need for other players to raise their levels. So that's how a team works. And we have had experiences over the last 2 years where that's been the case. I've said that in this last period of time, month, Diego has really been in good form, really working hard, very good mentality. And Brian is a talented guy, and he is someone that we're just trying to help. I think sometimes he puts pressure on himself, and we're just trying to take that pressure away and get him to play as free as he can and show everybody what he can do.
Hey, Bob, how's it going? Thanks for your time. I just have two quick questions. One is, are you expecting any other players to not be with the team down in Orlando? And two is just status of Bradley as he recovered from the sports hernia surgery.
I think for the most part, everybody else is going to be in Orlando. Brad has been back in training, showing some good things. Obviously, his ability around the goal is still special. He's not ready to play 90 minutes, but you can see the understanding that is developing between Brad and some of the other attackers, and we're hopeful that he can really be an important guy for us as we move through the season, and certainly we'll see a little of him in Orlando.
Hey, Coach, thanks for taking the time. I wanted to ask you a little bit about Andy Najar. It's been a while for him playing 90 minutes. How ready is he to be a player that you can use regularly during MLS is back? Thank you.
Andy's not ready to play 90 minutes either, but he's back into training. We need to move him along in a good way so that the confidence in his game and in his knee is there. So we're really excited to have him, but he's not ready for 90 minutes in Orlando.
Bob, how hard it is mentally to manage all this time? I mean, first because the guys were away, then coming back with so much excitement, maybe someone wants to do more that they actually should do, then you preparing for the tournament and had all these kind of informations. So it's family involved, and mentally I think it's maybe tougher for you guys than physically and soccer wise, tactically.
Certainly the mental part over the past few months and the mental part that will be a challenge in Orlando. We've thought a lot about it. There's no answers other than helping each other, supporting each other. Sometimes I think you need perspective. And in Los Angeles right now, as I mentioned earlier, the numbers for the COVID cases are high again. And we know that the Hispanic community, blacks, have been adversely affected. We have so many fans that have the kind of jobs where they've been working, doing essential things to help others. And so when we talk about pressure and mentality, we think about these people. I think that's the key. And we appreciate everything that they've done. And we've had some cases of COVID that are very close to our team. And so we are thankful that some of the people that we're thinking about are doing okay. And sometimes in some of their cases, their family situations, big families, and it's just on our minds to make sure everybody's safe. So, we don't just think of ourselves in this moment. We think about the people around us. We think about our supporters. We think about people in Los Angeles and in the country. And then we then try to prepare ourselves to do a good job in the area that we control.
How much does it take away from the tournament and having Carlos, not just for this team, but in general as the reigning MVP? And just a follow-up, and how frustrating for you guys has it been in general, kind of having to stall the momentum that this team had and the championship goals that you guys had in mind for 2020?
The challenge of stopping and the uncertainty has been difficult for everyone. But as I just mentioned, the perspective of seeing what's going on around the world, seeing the number of cases, the number of deaths, puts everything, it means that you step back and you try to not just think about the situation of our team. We've always enjoyed the opportunity we have here to be a good team and to step on the field, especially home games in Banc of California. And we've got great supporters and a real connection with the city. So we've missed that. But when I talk about essential workers in the city, once again, we're thinking about everybody right now. And so we've been able to get back into a routine with our football. This tournament is to bring the game back to the fans. And certainly there are parts to it that are challenging. And yet it's still important, as I said, with Carlos or anybody whose family situation is such that they feel that for now they need to be with their family, to understand that and respect that. I think that we've seen that with some Major League Baseball players. We hear about some NBA players that now feel like right now it's not best for them. Some of the NWSL players. So this is part of life where people have to size up for themselves. And I think the respect of each situation is really important.
Wanted to ask you about not playing with the supporters. I've been watching a lot of the games in Europe, and you can see some players have some issues adapting without the noise, without the supporters there in the stadium. How do you prepare for that? And is there a message you have for the LAFC fan base as you prepare for your trip to Orlando?
The message for our supporters is that we know if they had the chance, they'd all be there with us. And we know that they'll find a way to support and watch, and we feel their love all the time. So that part's easy. Games without fans, it's a different experience. Certainly in preseason, you have games like that, but you love when you start the season, and the atmosphere inside stadiums is really important. When I've watched all the games in Europe, obviously the best teams find ways to still be at a high level. And so that's the challenge we've set for ourselves.
Obviously, it's unfortunate news with Carlos Vela not being there with you guys. I just want to talk about a little bit more of the strategy with the 5-player subs. And obviously is one of the assets that you and the other coaches will have. How would you'll plan to implement that? I know you mentioned that Bradley Wright Phillips and Andy Nahar are not capable to play 90 minutes. So how do you plan on using those 5 subs?
It's not something that we plan out ahead of time. It gives us more options depending upon the way the game goes. We are very aware of training loads and the physical load in games, so that we'll manage all those things in a smart way. And the 5 subs just gives the opportunity when you feel like guys are getting to the limit to use subs and change in those ways. But we've not planned it out ahead of time. We've got to get to Florida, get some days of training there, and see where we are when we get ready to play against Houston.
How much will it change the team style of play, if at all, not having Carlos? I imagine that it won't change much, if at all, but figured out.
No, it doesn't change at all.
Cool. And what will be the key in these games after such a long layoff? Obviously, different teams have had different amounts of training time, so there's different levels of sharpness. Is it going to be just down to the soccer? Is it down to fitness, down to the emotional part of the game? What do you think will be the key in winning these games after such a long break?
For us, we look at all these things as a package. The way we play, our fitness, our mentality, our ideas. And so it's not like we'll go there and have a new way of playing. We'll try to go and take the ideas that you've seen over the last few years in training. We've reestablished things quickly. I've been pleased with the tempo. Obviously, it's not as humid here as it is in Orlando. So we'll see what happens as game starts. But we still want to use these games to keep building our team. Certainly we want points. We want to win this tournament, but we also want to make sure that we come out of this tournament further along so that we can keep pushing throughout the rest of the year.
Considering that this was going to be a great opportunity to see how the players reach a good physical shape, do you have any particular plan for Carlos that is staying in LA?
Yeah, he'll train. There's people that'll be here with him, and so he'll continue to push himself. He's done a good job handling the break, and I think he's been back in good form in training, and he's excited for when we return. So no problem with that.
You usually play 4-3-3 when Carlos Vela is in the field. Are you gonna change your formation? Since
no.
you're not.
Okay. No, we're gonna play the same way.
All right.
We've had games where Carlos didn't play in the last 2 years, and
yeah, and he was 4, and you guys, I think it was Orlando last year, and he was 4-5-1.
No, 4-5-1, nothing.
Yeah,
no,
4-2.
No.
It was 4-4-3.
4-3-3.
Okay, 4-3-3.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for doing this. I just have a quick question just on the status of Adama, if he's ready to go, if he's ready to play 90 minutes, and if he's not, with Bradley still working his way back to form, what other players should we expect to see in the lineup?
Dio's also not ready for 90 minutes. So that does mean that we've got to think through the best way to do things. We still have the option to play Latif up front and then use somebody else in the midfield because we're a little bit deeper in the midfield right now. So those are some things we'll have to figure out as we go through the last week.
Everybody talking about the Orlando tournament, and that's good because everybody wants to see soccer games. But do you know something about the restart of the tournament, the real tournament? Because nobody talks about that. So I don't know if there's something about in talkings, Bob, there can be a new date for restart the real tournament, or there's something they can be I don't know, maybe they say it's not there. We don't have any, we have a lot of issues in the country, so this is the only thing, this is the only way that we can play soccer in Orlando, not anymore for the rest of the year.
We're hoping that the season will continue, but we do not have more information or specific details.
Just wanted to double check, Bob. Everyone else is traveling to Orlando, so every other player is available?
I believe so. I think the way we're handling it is, we'll get there and make sure testing and everything's all right, and then eventually you'll see a roster. But everybody else should be set to go.
Knowing that there's an empty spot from Carlos Vela on your final roster that you are traveling to Orlando, is there any chance that a guy from the academy or any other players can cover that spot, or it will be get empty for this tournament? Thank you.
All these things have been discussed, and we'll see what our final roster looks like. As you know, from the beginning of the year, we made great progress with some of the young players in the academy. And even though this has slowed things down, we're anxious to keep pushing those guys along.